لا نسمع من الأمم المتحدة ومن المجتمع الدولي سوى الإدانات والتصريحات الإعلامية والشعور بالقلق.
ووجدك عائلا فأغنى.
Yemenis in the capital of Sana'a are demonstrating against international forces.
الله أكبر. الموت لأمريكا، الموت لإسرائيل، اللعنة على اليهود، النصر للإسلام.
إلى باب مكتب الأمم الإنسانية، مكتب الأمم المتحدة لنعريها.
These guys are just walking from Friday prayers towards the UN building where they are protesting the blockade that's been in place here in Yemen for the last few years. They're asking for the UN's help in terms of lifting that blockade because they're saying that this is preventing the fuel and the aid that is necessary for Yemeni people to survive from coming into the country.
For 6 years, Yemen has been stuck in a bloody civil war between the Saudi-supported government forces and the Iran-backed Houthis. 200,000 people have been killed, but millions more have been pushed to the brink of starvation. Both sides have escalated the hunger crisis. While the Houthis have limited civilians' access to food aid, Saudi-led coalition forces have bombed farms, water supplies, and fishing boats. The Saudis also imposed a strict blockade on the country's air and seaports, which is having deadly impacts. Although some of these restrictions have been loosened, fuel is still tightly controlled.
What is it you've come here for today?
People is dying in Yemen. People is starving. Hospital is closed. What they are doing in Yemen? They should help us. Otherwise, what are they doing in Yemen?
Who do you ultimately blame for the blockade?
We blamed America because if it's America tells Saudi Arabia let the oil ship come to Yemen, they will go directly. Because America controls the whole world. We blamed Biden. Said if I become the president, I will let oil ship. I will stop the war.
Do you have children?
Yes, 5 children. He wants to go to fight. Where is he? This is my son. He wants.
You want to fight? How old are you?
13 years old.
You're 13 years old and you want to fight?
ليش يتحارب؟
And that's why you want to fight?
If they stay like this 2 weeks or 3 weeks, more than that, what are we doing? We will go to fight.
The lack of fuel entering Yemen impacts everything. Clean water and electricity are harder to come by. Health facilities run on limited power, and food prices are driven up. All at a time when 16 million Yemenis face acute food insecurity and there's a shortfall in international aid donations. This year, around 400,000 children risk death from starvation. Dr. Alam Obadi Al-Jami has worked in this malnutrition ward for the last 18 months. Right now, she's seeing more cases than ever.
Why is that people are not getting the right nutrients?
Sometimes the cause is the patient don't have the good money to get the good health food for their children.
Do you think that the war has impacted the ability for people to feed their kids right?
I think the war is the main cause of this problem.
It must be so frustrating for you.
Some children stay here with me for three weeks and they die. It's very sad, I think.
You were crying just before we came in?
Yes, always. Always in my duty, I cry for the people.
If the war stopped tomorrow, would this ward be emptier?
It's be better than now. I hope all the war stop because we get tired.
The war shows no sign of ending and patients keep coming. Fatima was married when she was 15. When she noticed her daughter Intisar losing weight and convulsing, she brought her here.
She's crying without sound. You must be very worried.
وش السبب؟ ثاني يوم.
I can't imagine how difficult it is as a mother losing one of your children and then your other child being in this situation.
2 days after we met Fatima, her daughter Intisar had a cardiac arrest and died. We wanted to understand why fuel was not getting into the country at a time when it's most needed. From looking at commercially available maritime data on vessel locations, we can see how fuel tankers make their way to Hodeidah port, the main seaport in the country's north. We looked at a 20-month period from January 2020 through till the end of July 2021. We asked the Centre for Advanced Defence Studies, a non-profit that studies crime and conflict, to analyse that vessel traffic in the Gulf of Aden. What they found was that during this time period, 69 fuel tankers set off for Hodeidah. But they were stopped at the coalition holding area where they had to wait for approval from the Saudi-led coalition before they could continue. 58 of those vessels were anchored here for more than 72 hours. Sometimes they were held for weeks or even months. Once approved, most tankers then travelled on to Hodeidah. But over a third of them were then held at the Hodeidah port for over 72 hours, this time by the Houthi authorities. It's clear from this data that the coalition, and to a lesser extent the Houthis, are both responsible for delaying much-needed fuel from entering the country, contributing to a man-made disaster. In the north, pockets of people are now living in famine-like conditions. Mariam lives with her family in a camp for displaced people, 20 miles from the nearest hospital. It's a long and expensive drive that she simply can't afford. So she brings her son, Mishal, to this makeshift clinic, set up to treat acute cases of malnutrition. He's 4 years old.
So they're giving you nutrition for him?
قالوا لي سلمي له ما عنده ديله تاتو بطاق الاسبوع يقولوا 15 ودحين تركه مدري يهبون له مدري لا يا صعب علينا بعض الحين من حصلوا له حتى 10 ريال والله معانا قال له حقه من نشتري.
And what's the problem with his hands? What happened?
ياكلها بس نالو لما يسيل دم.
Oh my gosh, it's red raw. Why is he eating his fingers?
ياكلها بنفسه كذا يمسكها وياكلها لما يسيل دم. بعض الحين مراها لقدي يسيل دم من هنا من سنانه حتى ينكع مضلعه. الحين ما أحس الحين معه ولا قال ما هسوي. الحين ما راهن جاع أهم ما بهن. أنا أفكر بهن.
A few days ago, we heard that Mishal died, just moments before his mother was able to reach the clinic.